And good afternoon, everybody. Of course, please don't expect such interesting animations that we had before. So if someone would like to sleep after lunch, you're very welcome. Okay, so being in those conferences for several years now, both in the United States, in Bulgaria here, it is absolutely clear for all of us that we have absolutely new science of water. And there are brilliant scientists, some of them are here, some of them are not here with us anymore, who has created this science, and it's strongly developing. And it is clear that now it is time of practical applications of all this science. And first application, of course, the most important is this creation of commercially available structured waters. So we have companies worldwide in different countries, in the United States, Germany, Russia, Asian countries who produce this water. We have companies who develop different devices available from internet, so we can buy it. So then we have many questions. First question, how to measure the level of water structuring? They claim that it's structured, but is it really so? What special properties possess this water compared with non-treated water, if any? How long water may preserve those properties? Would it be 10 minutes, half an hour, 10 days, or 10 years? We don't know. What effect may have this water to humans and nature? Because it may be structured, really, and we can measure it structuring, but maybe it's deadly. We know experiments when fish was raised up in structured water, and after very active time, after a month, they all died. We know experiments when cactus was watered with structured water. It produced beautiful flower after a week, and then in a month it died. So it's a question, big question. And of course, should it be considered as a type of mineral water for limited usage, or it is drinkable water? It's again a very serious questions. And of course, we can have a lot of other questions as well. Of course, the best would be, I would say, proof that may be given by long-range studies, like is done now in India for several years with one type of this structuring device. And they proved that with their water, they can increase outcome of yields, and it is done by peasants, not by scientists. They can really increase lifespan of chicken, and they produce much more meat, and not only, they become much more healthy. And it's only using special tube. And we have Robert here who can demonstrate you this device and this type of devices. But of course, this type of experiments or trial needs a lot of time, efforts, and combination of many, many people. So, of course, we need some more simple technologies available practically to everybody. And we are developing this line. Of course, it's only one line, so I don't want to tell that it's the line, but just I'm a developer, so I'm interested in this. So the name of this is gas discharge visualization. More common name is bioelectrography. And now we are using more like electrophotonic imaging. And we are developing this for 20 years, but in reality it has many, many years of development. Origin was in 18th century when German physicist Georg Lichtenberg found a light coming from different subjects in electromagnetic field. In 19th century they were able to make a photography of this. And it was many scientists, including Tesla, who was playing with this beautiful charge around the body. In 20th century, it became known mostly due to family Kirlian in Russia, and that's why we name it as Kirlian effect, but you know that origin was in, long before that. But it happened so that, and I was able to meet Semyon Kirlian. He was a brilliant person, a wonderful researcher, but it was a lot of other people in different countries, practically all over the world, who was involved in this Kirlian photography, in many countries. But still, it was not scientific. So, in 1995, our team was able to create another instrument, and that's why we named it as GDV, gas discharge visualization instrument. And this camera, it combines modern electronics, optics, and most important, modern image processing. So physical effect is absolutely clear. It is excitation of electrons by electromagnetic field. They emit photons. And this all creates some type of slow gas discharge, and we have light. Light coming from any subject. And it may be many different subjects. So we have application in medicine for human being, in consciousness study. It's tremendously interesting. And what we are talking about, healers, about distant effects, about distant healing, transfer of information, that is possible to study with this technology. In sport, we are very active in sport, and for 10 years I was deputy director of the Federal National Institute of Sport in Russia. Then in water and material testing, and that's why I'm here for every year. Then in psychology, again, it is very objective tool for psychological evaluation of stress and anxiety. And finally, energy of space. It's our new, relatively new line, but we can evaluate the energy of different parts of the world. And its quantitative numbers, it's very interesting as well. So we have many programs, and we present information in different forms, available for different level of people, like energy field, like yin-yang meridians, like chakras, and plus of course a lot of diagrams. And particularly for research, of course, we use numbers. We create many numbers from images, and if you've seen in previous our colleagues' images of this water that was evaporated water. So in principle we have same type of images, and we developed nonlinear mathematics to evaluate those images. I have many books, more than maybe 15 books. We have about 15 patents, 200 scientific papers. Books are translated to many languages, and they are available in English from Amazon.com. And we are applying this approach to water study. So in principle, we have different ways how we study water. And in particular, we can study light coming from a drop suspended above the electrode. And we use special testing kit that we're developing, and this kit allows to study this both for water and for different subjects like leaves, crystals, and all information is very interesting. And of course, we have different images. So you see, those are maybe images of different images of. Let's see, where it's coming. No, mine. If not, then not. So it may be, of course, it's a big difference between image of distilled water, different salt solutions, and of course we see transformation of this image after structuring with different devices or with intention, because it's one of the way how we can structure water. And we can study water, wine, blood, different liquids, so and it looks really very interesting. Yeah, so you can see those are images, and you can imagine it's not easy to develop this image. And if we make it in dynamics, then you see it's dynamical image, and please pay attention. You see, it's really beautiful images, and you see this is dynamical, because we are studying not static patterns, but we study dynamical patterns in nature. So that's very important that we can have this in dynamics. Now we have a new instrument, and this instrument is known as BioWell. And nearby this instrument you see this antenna. Our American friends named it Sputnik, because it looks like Russian Sputnik, you know, from 60s. And this device, now we have it in mass production line, and it allows to study a lot of different properties. And the principle of analysis of water in particular is as follows. We have a special electrode, and we produce these electrodes because it's, in principle, it's standard water electrode. And we apply this electrode inside the water. Then we connect this electrode to metal titanium cylinder. And this cylinder is placed on the electrode of the camera. All information comes to computer, computer connected to server, and all image processing and information processing done on server. This way we can keep very complicated nonlinear mathematics on server, because it takes big gigabytes of information, of space, I would say. And in the customer computer, you can keep only very little program. So it allows us to run on Mac, Windows, doesn't matter, all other program systems. And this allows us to study dynamical signal from water. So this way we can see, for example, we see initial water, and you see several measurements, repeatable of course measurements, and if water is stable, then a repeated measurement is stable. Then we charge this water with something. Again, maybe different devices, maybe different means, and we see the change of signal. You see the difference between two lines. And of course, this allows us first of all to select waters, because as was mentioned before, for experiments of this kind, you need to select water. With distillate water it's possible to make some experiments, but effect would be very little. If you take active waters from nature, effect would be much, much stronger. But if this water contains too much salts, effect again will be very low. So it is a lot of moment that we need to take into account. And last one more topic, water is alive. It's a live being. So if you take a bottle, if you open this bottle, it starts breathing. And of course, you will detect the curve of breathing for maybe 10, 20 minutes, half an hour. Some water, they change all the time. It's same with wine. You know that if you have old wine, before you drink it, you need to open this. But if it's very old wine, it's impossible to keep it open for a long time. It will die. Same with water. That is why we know that there are simple rules that we need to follow. First of all, it's, of course, we don't have another water except of plastic bottles when we're traveling. But it's not very good, because we don't know when this water was produced. We don't know how it was stored. We don't know whether it was in warm condition, cold condition, at sun. So that is a big problem that we just neglect. We try not to pay attention to. But still, it is all very important, and this all you can study with this technology. So this is type how we typically do this experiment. You see, unfortunately, I don't have a pointer here. Doesn't matter. So we have this device, viral device. We have water beaker, and we have some electrodes applied from some special device. And then first we are measuring dynamic signal from water in initial condition. We see how it stabilizes, and then we apply signal from this device, and we see whether it was some response of water or not. And we understand, if we see a response of water, then we can expect a response from human being as well. If it is no response of water, then we wouldn't expect a response from human being. That is why one of the way how we test different healers, or people who pretend to be healers, just to ask them to influence water, and that's the easiest way. And of course, we know we have a lot of scientific data published. Thank you very much. You're very kind. A lot of data that shows us dependence on concentration, on different salts, and a lot of information published in Jerry's journal, and we're preparing papers all the time. And as I've told, it's very interesting to see, for example, this is just open bottle, and we see the curve of transformation, and you see standard deviation. So it is clear that water is chaotic when it's open. And it's two different bottles. They are similar, but still very high level of standard deviation. And then and this is distillate water. And then after several hours, after 4 hours, we see it's quite stable in both bottles. So we need to take this into account when we make any experiments. And of course we can study, as I mentioned, not only water but different liquids. For example, cancer blood, healthy blood, there's cancer blood, healthy blood, and a lot of different information of different samples of cancer and healthy blood. And our doctors, they developed a system how they can define allergy on blood samples. They take blood, they dilute it in high dilutions, and then they add drop of concentrate of different allergens, potential allergens. And they see response of blood. In principle, it's water diluted. But still we have response, and mostly it's diluted plasma. Then, as Glenn Ryan mentioned, it is possible to see the influence of crystals, gemstones, and it's very important information because it shows us initial samples, even water after gemstones was kept for 15 minutes, and then it transforms in time. So we have a lot of data of this type, and of course it depends on the stone, it depends on everything. And the influence of different devices, it's so named Merrill's ring device, again initial after the influence. Then it's another device, background measurement, device is on, you see it's clear difference after, and every interval is 10 minutes. It's average and standard deviation in every interval. And of course, it is very important to see the influence of structured water to people. The easiest way and the simplest way, what a lot of our colleagues do, because we have more than 1,000 instruments worldwide, those are measuring people initially, and for example, it's image of energy field, and then people drink glass of water, and you see this transformation of their energy field. And we're measuring energy in joules, so it was 38 joules, in 52 joules, after just 15 minutes after drinking a glass of water. Another example of same experiment. So initial 32 joules, and after a glass of water 62 joules. So, those colleagues, it is a device produced in France, and they have several hundred people in those experiments, so they have various statistics, and most of people respond to their water very good. But the question is follows. Okay, very good. We have this response, but how long would it last? And typically it lasts about 10, 15, 20 minutes. So that means that we need to drink this water every 20 minutes. So of course we need to do another type of experiment. And as I mentioned, I work with in Ministry of Sport of Russia and St. Petersburg Federal Research Institute of Physical Activity and Sport. And our main goal to help Olympic and Paralympic teams of Russia. So we work with a lot of Olympic teams and most of Paralympic teams. And our instruments, those are standard instruments that we use to test athletes before in their training process and during the competition. And of course, we use longitude testing of athletes in all our experiments. And it was typical how we test water. So I just give you an example of one of our experiments. So it was 20 athletes from the School of Olympic Reserve. It's a special place where athletes, candidates for Olympic teams, they live there in this school, and it's a nice environment. And what's important, those are a randomized group, because those are people of the same age, practically same age group. They live in one and the same conditions, or they go to competitions in one and the same group. They have same type of food. They have same type of influence, environmental influence. So if we introduce some factor, in particular water, we are sure that it would be influence of this particular factor, but not something else. Plus, of course, their coaches, they follow up their private life, so we expect that there will be no love stress for them. And then, of course, we have 20 athletes on control group, and we are following them in 30-day period. We are using different technologies. Heart rate variability, it's our favorite. Blood pressure, pulse rate, oxygen uptake, energy profile with blood parameter, clinical and biochemical. So we can follow all these parameters simultaneously. And when we do experiments, we have initial readings for all parameters. Then we give them really hot loading with pulse rate of 160 for 5 minutes. And then we are measuring them after loading. And we do this initially and then months later. So this way we can see not only transformation of their initial state, but what is important, their response to loading. So how they are improving from energy point of view. And then, as I have two groups, experimental group, it's no difference between groups. Then one group, they drink structured water. In particular, it was experiment with graphene water. We had other types of water as well we tested. And another group, they drink normal water. And they don't know which is which. So all is provided in big 20-liter jars. So for them, they don't know what they are participating in. And then we evaluate them after a month. So it was clear difference in all experiments of this kind. So if they drink structured water, then experimental group is always different on all parameters compared with control group. So this is dynamic of hemodynamic parameters and arterial pressure, heart rate variability, oxygen consumption, and its experimental group before and after. And you see arterial pressure decreased, heart rate decreased, and systolic, both systolic and diastolic, and oxygen consumption increases. So it is absolutely clear, the evidence. Then it is difference on energy parameters from electrophotonic instrument. And here we give difference between different indexes of energy potential in the first and second trial. So we're measuring stress level, we're measuring energy potential, and for us it's interesting, of course, to see the difference. And we have means to evaluate these two different organs and systems of the body, because we make all analysis based on ideas of traditional Chinese medicine, yin-yang meridians, and traditional Ayurvedic medicine. So it's all based on these ideas. And you see, it is a big difference. In control group, we have some even decrease of parameters. Some parameters are zero, some are increasing. And in experimental group, we have all parameters strongly increase. So it's absolutely clear, and you understand this is tremendous statistically difference. So difference 0, 0, 0, 0 something. So it's absolutely clear evidence of the influence of drinking water, just as structured water. And we had, plus, of course, we are doing analysis of psychological state. It's, in particular, this is profile of mood state. And we demonstrate that they are really feeling better. Their self-evaluation are better after these months of drinking only good water. So, of course, for all of us and for our ministry, it was wonderful evidence that it's really important. And after this type of experiments, we've done it several, all our athletes, they are transformed to special waters. And you know that in Olympic and Paralympic teams in Sochi, games in Sochi, our teams was the first. And it was, I believe that some contribution was due to this water as well. And that's why I suggest that for everybody, it's absolutely necessary. And so we did this conclusion. We made a report for our ministry. We have some papers published in Russian on this, and now, of course, we need to prepare, maybe, if Jerry would accept us, a paper for Water Journal as well, if he would be so kind. Of course. Another type of our testing, those we are doing in our Federal Oncology Institute of the Ministry of Health of Russia. And we have good colleagues over there in this institute, because we are doing a lot of clinical study on cancer patients, and we are collecting this data, we are publishing this data. And I suggested our different, I would say, producers who produce structured water, and they make it in St. Petersburg, in Russia, quite good water. I asked them, okay, please, can you provide this water for free to the children's department of this cancer hospital? And I made agreement with the head of the department, because those are good colleagues of us, that this water is certified, it's normal water, it's drinking water, but let us try, let us see. And they provided big amount of water, so all children was able to drink only this structured water for some period of time, of course. And after this, doctors was able, of course, to supervise, and the results was really very strong, because they found that when those children drink structured water, they practically don't have side effects of chemotherapy. So they have normal procedure of treatment. They have surgery, they have chemotherapy, depending on type of cancer. And in this institute, those are most serious cases of cancer, of course, and child cancer in particular. And they reported very good response and very good results. And we tested 2 different types of water, and in both cases, the effect was very strong. Of course, they were, I would say, a little bit cautious to have it published. Plus, it was not clinical data, it was just observation. There was no control group, it was only children in this department. That's about 30-40 children over there all the time. But to my mind, it's very strong, and that's why now we suggest all our patients and who are having cancer to use just only structured water. Same, another suggestion, to use structured water to grow sprouts and to consume those sprouts, and to be nearby those sprouts, because again, it is very strong, and we now have another set of experiments with our system. We have, maybe you've heard this wonderful, very interesting scientist, Konstantin, who has developed an approach how to transmit information from one living being to another living being. Finally, he came to idea to how to make anti-aging rejuvenation. And he developed a system like a big egg, 3 meters high, and people are laying inside this egg, and they place sprouts just nearby. And people having this session for an hour, just laying there. And we participate in this study in Russia now, and they have really very good results on patients. So, because we understand what does it mean. It is because we've been measuring sprouts with our instrument, and it was shown that it is really strong photon emission from sprouts in the process of their sprouting. And what does it mean, photon emission? It's electromagnetic waves. So we understand that when we are nearby the sprouting greens, we are under the influence of this field. And we believe, and we have some more proof, maybe at next conference I will be able to bring it here, that under this influence we have increase of physiological parameters. So that's why they name it as rejuvenation anti-aging device. So every year we have our congress in St. Petersburg, and it will be 20th scientific congress, and the name of this congress is Science, Information and Spirit. And we have it always in the first weekend of July. and this is website. And most of our colleagues, like Jerry Vaib, he's vice president of Congress. They've been presenting at our Congress, Len Ryan as well, Emilio, of course, many times. And you know that this is a wonderful time in St. Petersburg, because it's a time of white nights. So our Finnish colleague, he presented beautiful data, but he didn't mention, but both in Finland and in St. Petersburg, half of the year, we have white nights. But half of the year, we have no night, no day at all. We have only nights. That's why night deprivation or light deprivation is a big problem for us. So in July, it is beautiful time. It's the best time in St. Petersburg. It's the time of white nights, and city by itself, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So I invite all of you to come there, and you can find all information on website. And I'm sure if we drink good water, we may be strong, healthy for at least 100 years. Thank you very much. Is zones. Because this is a way how we can organize water using devices, and we understand the principles. And if you look carefully, if you read carefully Jerry's book, so it's written there, what's the principle. At the same time, it may be original water that may have some minerals or some salts that may be agitated by this. And those salts, they may have a much stronger effect on our human body, because they may penetrate organs and systems, and they may have influence. So we believe that it depends first of all on initial water, and then of course it depends on how it was activated.
So you mentioned the graphene filtered water as structured water. Is there any evidence that the graphene produces, I mean, how does one know that the graphene filtered water is structured?
At the moment I can be based only on our experiment. As I mentioned, we have several means how we are comparing initial water and water after device, and we see the change of patterns, and we have some, I would say, experience and understanding what does it mean just normal water and what does it mean active waters. So we do see this change of water after graphene filters. And in principle, it's in accordance with our understanding what does it mean graphene.
Actually, can I follow up on that same question? Because you use the word structured water, but scientifically speaking, you need to use NMR to really know whether the water is structured. Have you done any correlations between GDV measurements and any standard scientific method to determine structuring of water?
First of all, I would not agree that there are standard means. That's the first of all. To my mind, there are several different techniques, and we've been comparing, of course, different techniques with infrared spectroscopy, then with this scientific way of creating crystals, and I'm looking forward to work with Konovalov, with a light scattering device that I believe is the most powerful now at the moment. So we do have some evidence, but not in every case.
Yeah, I think that's a great discussion for this group. You know, what is structured water and how can we measure it?
Yes, absolutely. That's the first question that I put in my presentation. Because, yeah, absolutely. Because we claim, a lot of people claim this, but we don't have a standard means, even agreed between this audience, not to tell about scientific community.
Okay. I think structure alternative expression of structured water is electron-rich water. Am I correct?
No, I disagree. So electron-rich water is just one type of water.
Only one type of
Yes,
water.
only one type of water. We talk about coherent domains in water. It means creation of areas in water that have coherent properties. And Professor Montagnier clearly demonstrated that it may be induced these properties in water under the influence of electromagnetic field and information. Of course, after Benveniste was the first.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, just a consideration. Maybe in a short time, also the expression structured water will be obsolete and wrong, because I think that we shouldn't speak about structure, because if we understand that water, and all of us know that water is a collective, continuous dynamical system, maybe we have to concentrate about the phase modulation inside the currents, because instead of a certain of structure in the real term, because as we know, the liquid phase of water is guaranteed above all by the electronic coherence, the current oscillation in the coherence domain, and as we know, water, we cannot neither to speak about normal water, because the excited level of electrons in water is very near to the ionization threshold, and there are a huge band of electronic levels that in fact constitute a band and not discrete levels. So indeed we have thousands or millions of type of waters that can change one to another with a very subtle stimuli, with the really tiny. So maybe there is an evolution that is not a structure but a process. So I don't know how to say, but just to say it's a
From one hand, I agree with you. From the other hand, don't, because that's why the name of my presentation was effect of coherent domains,
yes, in fact.
but not structured water. But it is just a label that people use.
Yes.
And we need to either we give scientific definition of what do we mean by this, and then of course it would be great if we can do this, and then it will be in Wikipedia or somewhere else, or we just be based on some other name. I like and prefer coherent domains, because from my point of view it is scientific. Then all you tell about dynamics, it's absolutely true, because what we are studying not just images, but we are studying dynamics.
Please, one more question. Look once again, please. We are running terribly late.
In our study, we use filtration all the time, and filtration on classical membranes. And we try other membranes that are thin to see if we can
Yes, of course we
them.
have experiments with DNA solutions, different experiments, but it's not so solid to be presented.
So what is the duration of the capacity of the graphene filter water?
You see,
In time.
for us, yes, that's experiment that we are doing just now. We are in the process. So we induce information into water, and then we study how long it will keep. We have so controversial results, from 10 minutes to 10 days. That is why, for me, it's absolutely a total nightmare to understand what's going on.
Konstantin Korotkov, thank you very much for your presentation.